everyone, and welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast, episode 24. In this episode, I speak with my good friend from Las Vegas, Tami Belt. Tami is a public relations expert. She is the founder and chief storyteller at Blue Cube Marketing Solutions. She is also an author, a writer, and poet, and wrote a book called Poetic Justice. And this is our book of the episode, Poetic Justice, Lessons of Love, Life, and Relationships by Tami Belt. It's a beautiful book. I'm not all the way through it yet, but I've been working through it, and Tami really did a brilliant job capturing humanity and really made me feel something, and those are some of the best books she'll ever read. So again, book of the episode, Poetic Justice by Tami Belt. I'm really looking forward to you listening to this conversation. Tami's a beautiful individual. We actually did an interview about 8 years ago in Las Vegas, so it was fun to do this one, come full circle, doing the Zoom here on this podcast. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Tami. Tami Belt, welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast.
It's so good to see you, my friend.
Oh, it is so good to see you. And I know we interact all the time on Facebook, but it's not the real thing, but it's the second realest thing we could have.
I know. I miss you.
I miss you too. How is everything with you?
It's going well. I'm well. So, knock on wood.
Surviving that Vegas cold.
The heat and the cold. Yeah. Are two extremes.
It's funny because when I first moved to Vegas, after living in the Midwest for a long time, I lived in Tucson, then I moved to Vegas, but I still had I guess I would call it my cold threshold. Because I'm used to being in like below zero temperatures and this, that, and the other. When I first moved to Vegas, people are wearing coats and scarves, and I'm like in a shorts and the t-shirt. I'm like, are you guys kidding? But then, took about a few years, I was the one in the scarves and the coat. I totally adapted.
Yeah, under 75 is chilly.
Yeah. Vegas definitely gets cold. Definitely, and really enjoyed hearing some Vegas stories in the pre-room there.
Yeah,
a lot of good Vegas history.
Well, when you've been in town for a certain amount of time, you've got stories about things and people and mobsters and things.
Well, and one thing as we were talking in the pre-show room, I started thinking like you've really truly seen the city explode, literally. Like, even people who moved there 10, 20 years ago haven't seen what you've seen.
Mm-mm.
So is it like in the movie Goodfellas at the end?
I've never seen Goodfellas.
I'm sorry. Pardon me. I'm not going to edit that out, but I probably should. Casino. What am I talking about? The end of Casino. Okay. Well, anyway, at the end of Casino, they basically said that corporations took over the strip. They ruined it. It's not the town that it used to be, basically.
It's not the town that it used to be. I mean, yeah. I mean, I remember. I don't remember the year. I was a kid still, I think, when the corporations came and took over. I mean, you'd have to tell me what year it was, and then I could tell you how old I was. But I remember that, and it changed. It did. It changed, and now it's changed even more that they have accountants running hotels, and that's why there's paid parking now. And it's like, no. We're the hospitality capital of the world. Do not monetize everything. That's not very hospitable to make us pay for parking. And when they did that downtown, I'm like, no. Downtown was built before the strip, and that's like really for locals. And, I will pay a valet. I will tip them well all the time. They are providing a service that's totally different than charging me to park my car when I'm going into your establishment to spend money. That's not hospitality.
I couldn't agree more. And like even because I think the paid parking thing even was implemented, I think right before I had moved out to LA. But it's like, that's like one thing you don't mess with, especially for the locals. It was such a luxury to have that.
We're not California. And then whatever, 10 years or whatever, then they bring up toll roads. And I'm like, we're not California. Stop it. Casinos have never had a problem making enough money. They don't, they do well. Food isn't the loss leader anymore. Now we've got the celebrity chefs and all that. So everything isn't, the 99-cent buffet or shrimp cocktail or whatever that it used to be. But, now it's the fine dining and the celebrity chefs. And it's not so much the lounge acts anymore. It's these insanely expensive shows, residencies and stuff. So, some of it's good, some of it's not so much, but it changes.
Yeah,
some of it's been good, but when they started to monetize everything, the corporations didn't ruin it. The accountants are ruining it.
You know what? We can make a little more money if we just do this over here. Like, okay.
Yeah, no, you don't nickel and dime. We're the hospitality capital of the world. And it's okay that we've, gotten some more expensive things and, finer dining and, bigger shows, but don't lose that.
The essence of it,
No, don't lose the hospitality. There's enough room for, get some great, and there are still some good lounge acts, but it used to just be lounge acts. There were showrooms. When you had your prime rib dinner with the show.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you really did get like cheap steak dinners, high quality shows.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
Yeah. When, so like my whole family's here, right? My grandparents moved here in 36 and, all my cousins and everything. And the Osmonds were coming it was called the International before it was the Hilton, before it was the Westgate. Yeah, the International. And the Osmonds were coming. And so my grandpa said, I'm going to take my grandkids. So he took the whole flippin' family.
Wow.
You know who opened for the Osmonds?
Who?
Rich Little.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was their first show. The first show.
I don't know if it was their first show.
Their first one.
I don't know. I was young and, they were like the thing, and now it's kind of like, but. No, but Donnie and Marie had a residency here for years and years. And one of the guys that headed up the band that was a jazz band that was a client of mine, I don't know if he was the musical director, but he played with them for years when they had the residency here for years and years. Donnie and Marie, yeah.
Now, weren't they at Flamingo at one point, Donnie and Marie?
I don't think it was the Flamingo.
I remember seeing their face on the strip.
On the side of the building, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not sure which one it was, but yeah, I just remember seeing their face all the time.
Yeah, because they were, they put it on the building. But God, I don't remember what it was. Was it MGM?
Somewhere on the vastness of the strip.
Yeah, on one of those tall buildings that, because when you live here, you don't go on the strip.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. Well, when I first moved to Vegas, I did, but then I realized either you're going to be deceased or, you have to stop. So it's like you grow out of it, and it is cool to have it there when you are a local, when someone's in town, and as long as it's convenient for you. But the classic, hey, I'm in Vegas, come drop everything and come meet me.
See, that's the cool thing about living here. The people that you grew up with are from here. So even if they moved away, when they come back, they really don't care.
Yeah.
If they want to go see a new property, they know that to just go by themselves, because we're not going to meet them there.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
Well, especially if you're paying for parking.
Oh, that is so wrong on so many levels. It's just wrong. It's It's just wrong.
Yeah. I wanted to say, like, this is about 10 years ago, I told some people, I felt like I caught the tail end of classic Vegas a little bit. Like, a lot had already changed, but free parking. You could go to a video poker machine with 5, 10, $20, do minimum bet, and get unlimited drinks. Like, just tip like the bartender $1 each time. No problems. Always. We knew people that worked in the hotels. We were getting hotel room deals left and right. But then it seems over a few year time that all just went away. It just all evaporated and went top dollar for everything. And
yeah, I don't know if they even give you free drinks, or if they, they might come around once while you're at the table. I mean, because I never gambled.
Yeah, neither did I.
I mean, when you're born here, it's like it's boring. My grandparents taught us how to play poker, though. They had poker chips from like this thing of poker chips from one of the original hotels, because Grandpa helped build them, doing the sheet metal, the air conditioning work. Everything that's been blown up, he worked on. So like when we'd be up at the cabin or whatever, we'd, get the poker chips out and we'd play poker. But we didn't gamble. Grandma liked to play the slot machine. But I mean, like when she went bowling at the bowling alley, she'd play the slot machine, and that was, she had her $10 or $20 or whatever it was. And yeah.
Well, that's more the gambling I did out here. I guess I never did like the full blown blackjack and all that stuff. I'd put money in the machine to get free drinks. That's basically what I would do.
Yeah. I don't know. It bored me to tears. Grandma loved to play the slot machine, but it was just like, have a budget, and she didn't need to have a budget, but she was like, I have a budget and I only play this much, and then when she'd win, she goes, I won. Do you want some of my winning? It's so cute. So yeah. And then like I had a friend that wanted to play, was it craps? I don't know. Anyways, it's like some table game where you're rolling the dice or whatever. And I couldn't understand it. And they kept winning. They kept wanting to, I'm like, can I just like go get something to eat and then meet you back here or something? I'm like,
yeah.
It's boring for me. I mean, and they were winning and I'm like, great, but I'm bored.
I want to get into you and your life, but one more thing about your Vegas life. What's something about the old Vegas, and we kind of touched on a little bit. What's just something that you miss the most, aside from the not having to pay for parking and stuff like that you've seen that used to be how it was, that is no longer really?
Well, but this is still a small town. And that I like. The comps don't run as freely as they used to. But again, I rarely went to use them. My dad could have gotten them anywhere. They were always inviting him to shows and to this and to that. But he didn't feel right taking comps, people that he gave golf lessons to or whatever. So it's just, I don't know, because to me, it's still a small town.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I still know people that I've gone to school with since kindergarten. People aren't from Vegas. I'm like, yeah, there are.
It's the big community outside of that strip.
Well, every place has their tourist attraction. Ours just happens to be a really famous, really long road. Just like anything, locals in San Francisco don't go to the wharf for the most part, I'm sure, unless they, work there, or they don't go to the touristy places. And in San Diego, I'm sure that if like the gas lamp district or what,
LA, it's Hollywood. I mean, it's like Hollywood's like going to the strip.
Yeah. Or it's every place has that, and you don't go there. I miss things being more affordable.
Mm.
You know, yeah, because everything, I mean, the residencies are beyond ridiculous. You know, I'd go to the Strip when, you know, the big concerts would come because, you know, the MGM at the Grand Garden Arena or whatever, but you just got a room that night. So you didn't have to deal with waiting an hour and a half, 2 hours to drive out of the parking garage back when you could park for free. You know, things like that. And it was affordable to get a room the night of the concert. It wasn't like sky high, crazy.
It was reasonable.
Yeah. You know, that kind of stuff, you know, but yeah, it's not, God, the Rolling Stones, when they did their Voodoo Lounge tour, you know, it was years ago, but yeah, we went, got a suite, you know, because I went with a bunch of friends, and yeah, so that's, but like I said, it's still a small town in a lot of ways.
Yeah, definitely, and that's one thing I love about Vegas is, you know, there's multiple parts to the city, but it's not like a huge deal. Like, oh, I'm going to meet you in Summerlin, or I'm going to drive to Green Valley, or I'm going to go to the wherever, and it's like all doable. Like, I do hear the traffic, and I've been there a couple times now recently, but the traffic has gotten more, but it's still not like.
It's not LA.
Not LA. Yeah, so
not LA.
This isn't the 405.
No, it's getting there, but it's not.
Yeah, but it is. I always called Vegas like I always felt like, especially during the era when we met, in that we were talking in the pre-show room about the social media Las Vegas era of like 8 years ago. And I felt like Vegas it's almost like a college, like, campus almost. Like you can run into people, like in Vegas you run into people, like I found, like you really do, like around town, like you run into people, you know, just like you would like a small town.
Yeah. And oh God, I miss the when the Rebels, I mean, I watched the Runnin' Rebels since
the Tarkanian team.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, yeah.
Before they built the Thomas and Mack, before they built the Shark Tank at the Thomas and Mack, they played at the convention center.
Really?
And they would put the seats and everything, and it was like wooden, and everybody would their feet to make the noise. And this is when they had shorts like Glenn Gondrezick and Freddie Banks, and I watched them. Before they had the 3-point shot, when anything past half court, they dunked. They made those shots, anything past half court, and it was before they had the 3-point shot. I went to school with the championship team.
What was that? When did they win? What years was that again?
1990. I graduated in 88. But the championship team was 1990. My girlfriend and I, we were at the Four Kegs because it was just up the street from the apartment I was living in at the time. That bar was packed to the gills.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't have a voice the next day. The entire town wore red.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody wore Rebel red. And then, you know, Maxim came in and to destroy the basketball team, and it's never been the same since. But with Kruger back as the coach, you know, his son. And it's like, okay, I missed that.
Mm.
The Runnin' Rebels. I went to school with that team. And yeah.
Larry Johnson was on that team,
Larry, he was in one of my classes.
Oh!
I was dating a guy, and his dad lived in the Midwest. And his dad wanted his autograph. And I'm like, no. We don't ask them for their autographs. And he's like, you have to. And he bought one of those little mini basketballs. And he goes, you got to get him to sign this for Dad. And I'm just like, no. So I go up to Larry in class. And we weren't like, we knew each other because we were in class. We weren't like, you know, friends and all that, hanging out. But I'm like, Larry, would you please, my boyfriend's dad, and he's just like looking at me and laughing. He goes, you know, you're going to sleep with this under your pillow. And you know, and he knew that, you know, it was for my boyfriend's dad. So when it was his birthday, I got him a birthday card, and I walked past his desk and I go, now you have my autograph for when I'm famous. Yeah, I mean, Armin the Hammer-Gilliam. I mean, I went to school with those boys.
That's amazing. And they won. Did they win one championship or two? Was it one? Or maybe they went to the Final Four 2 years in a row, and then they won one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Those are my boys. They're my boys. My boys, my team.
The energy in the city had to have been insane during that time.
That's what I miss.
Yeah.
Because all those years, even when they just made it to the Final Four, you know, because the NC2A, what they did to Tark was, I'm sorry, every coach violates things. Every coach does stuff wrong. And I honestly believe he did less wrong than anybody, because he took players that nobody else wanted, that you know, and gave them a chance. And they took it and ran. You know, that was electric. And it's come back a little bit with the Vegas Golden Knights, because they were truly Vegas born, because they were the misfits. And they came to this town at the time of the shooting. Yeah. I still haven't been able to go to that memorial. Yeah. Because it's personal. That's my town that guy shot up. I mean, it wasn't, you hear about it all the time, and it's always tragic. But so many people were asking me if I was okay. And I'm like, I wasn't at the, it was country music. You know, and it's like, I don't do country music, but I knew a lot of people who were there. And I just happened to check social media, because it was a Sunday night. And, you know, Sundays for me is like offline, no meetings, no nothing. And I just happened to check social media just for the heck of it before I went to bed. And I saw what had happened. And so I was up until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, just checking to see everybody that I knew if they were okay. You know, and people were reaching out to me, and I'm like, I wasn't there. I mean, I know people that were driving people to hospitals. And people that were there. And I mean, that was horrible. But the Vegas Golden Knights, because they're misfits, and the way that they handled what happened when they had their first game, and they dedicated it to, you know, I mean, it was that time. It was, you know, that first game with Derek England, and, you know, what he did and how he did. But that team has been literally like knights in shining armor to this community. You know, everybody was showing up to give blood, and they were there to give blood, but there were so many people in line to give blood that they just started handing out food. And, you know, they're always backing some charity or doing something in the community. They're truly became part of this community, not some team that comes in, not the Raiders, as much as I love football. Not a popular opinion, but that's not my team. But, and who would have thought I liked hockey? Because I never really saw much hockey before, and it wasn't really my sport. But
that's interesting. You talk like that. Well, real quick, I wanted to say the first year the Knights were in town, they made it to the finals, right?
Stanley Cup finals.
So they did amazing.
Well, and they've still always been in contention.
They've always been really good, yeah.
Yeah. And everybody's so mad about Fleury, so.
It's interesting what you just said just there, how, you know, like you talking about hockey, it's like, well, I didn't really care for hockey, but it's what a sport can bring to people outside of their sport. And even for the UNLV basketball, I'm sure people that weren't like huge basketball fans, it was the community, it was the energy, it was what they were giving the city.
Yeah, it's like, that's our team. That's our team. That's our boys. That's our team. And that's what it is with the Knights. You know, it's that was what I missed. And I'm hoping that it gets back with the Rebels, because I mean, with student tickets or whatever, and you know, we would always go to the games. I haven't been to a basketball game in forever. But yeah, it would just always. And since I was a little girl, my dad would take us to the convention center, you know.
So Thomas and Mack was built after they won.
Yeah.
That's probably what made them build
after they won.
Oh, so they played in that arena during the championship. Okay. You're saying before then they had played at the convention center.
Right, like when in the 70s, 80s.
70s and
70s.
Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
when they wore short shorts like Glenn Gondrezick and all that. Freddie Banks and Tony and Robert Smith and yeah. Oh yeah. But it was fun. But we always backed the Rebels. This town was always, you know, that team, and it's come back with the Knights.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And so when, you know, that was what I missed. You know, there wasn't that team. And it's like, we have another team and hopefully the Rebels will come back again. So because like I said, what they did to Tark was horrible. And when they finally inducted him into the Hall of Fame, he was not in good health, but he was aware enough to know what was happening. And when you could see his face, and he knew, and they finally left him alone, and he finally got in. He was smiling like a little boy on Christmas. Oh. And that was just like.
I remember, I believe, I was living there when he had passed. I believe they dimmed the city lights, if I remember correctly. I think they dimmed the strip. I remember that in honor of him. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't a saint, but he didn't deserve what, you know, they did to him, and the way that they just ripped away the basketball program. You know, it was like that was sad.
Yeah.
You know, it was sad. So I'm hoping that, you know, Kruger can maybe bring it back.
Is it Lon Kruger who's the coach?
His son.
Oh, his son. Okay.
Yeah, because Kruger was a coach for a while, and then he got replaced, but his son.
Okay.
Who played with the championship team.
Wow. Okay. So good things. And you just remind me, just having this talk, and we could talk Vegas for hours, especially with you. But I appreciate you telling these stories. And you just remind me one thing about Las Vegas too. It really is a strong, special community through high times and low times. And it really is like, people really do care for each other over there. I definitely, you know, it's a very close community. Like you wouldn't think that, because you think the big strip and this, that, and the other. But then when you get underneath all that and you start meeting the people at the casinos and meeting the people that work at the nightclubs and this, that, and the other, it really is like this really cool community of people that.
Very philanthropic community.
Yeah, absolutely. And transitioning a little here, I wanted to get a little bit into PR and what you do. And I don't think I've actually ever truly asked you, you know, that is one of your expertises. How did you get into public relations?
Oh my gosh. When I started UNLV, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to go into psychology. And then I was told there's not enough money in it unless you go into psychiatry. And I wasn't about to go to med school. It involves math and stuff. It's like, no. Words good, numbers bad. So then I was going to go into social work. And then I heard you don't make a lot of money and there's a lot of burnout. And, you know, I grew up watching Bewitched.
Good show.
Yeah. And Darren was in advertising. And it was creative.
Oh yeah, he was.
I know. I could never do that with my nose. I would try. Oh God, I would forever. And I just couldn't do it. And so it got me thinking about, it was like much better than Mad Men. And it was like, oh, creative, and I can write. And because I've always loved stories. I've always just, because you grow up here, you hear stories and then you talk in stories and the imagination and the whatever. And so I went into I majored in communications with a minor in marketing because marketing was a separate college and you had to take econ and finance to major in that. And again, it was like, I'm not taking econ and finance, so I majored in communications, minored in marketing, and I've been doing it since I graduated college in 1988. And then I got tired of corporate America and opened my own sandbox in 2002 and said, I'm only going to play with nice people. And I specialized in communication strategy because nobody's got it. And community engagement because business is personal. It's about relationships. And one of the best ways to build a relationship is to bond over the passion for a cause. And I'd seen it done wrong in corporate America. And I wanted to help small companies do it right because it's not about writing a check. It's not. It's more than, it's personal. It's about getting involved. People support causes for very personal reasons. Very personal reasons.
So are causes the main type of clientele that you work with or have worked with?
I work with nonprofits and small businesses. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, there's a bunch of questions I have, but one question I'm just curious to get your perspective. I mean, obviously with the introduction of social media and internet marketing and all that, I talked with you about how Las Vegas has changed. How has PR changed? And at the same time, I'm sure there's some core principles that still apply. So could you maybe take us a little through that, how you've just seen it evolve, maybe what's changed in it, but what are some things that, like, for example, I mean, this is more marketing sales, like word of mouth. Word of mouth is always going to be your best.
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah.
Word of mouth is the best. And because people believe people, they don't believe ads. They believe people. And testimonials are word of mouth. Now we were talking before, now influencers are everywhere. But that's a paid spokesperson. Who are you going to talk? If you need a babysitter, if you need your car worked on, if you need something fixed around your home, are you going to turn to a celebrity spokesperson or an influencer? You're going to go on Instagram or wherever and ask an influencer. They don't live in your neighborhood. They don't have the experience with it. That's word of mouth. You're going to believe a person. That is the true influencer. Who's your friend's pediatrician? Who's your house cleaner? People who've had experience with it. And that's word of mouth. Social media is just a community of different mediums. Mm-hmm. That's all that it is. And each, like a neighborhood, different neighborhoods within different cities have different rules and norms and ways to interact, and it's the same thing with social media. Facebook is like the mashup of personal and professional. Twitter is the soundbite of social media. LinkedIn is just business. Instagram and YouTube are like entertainment and whatever, education, entertainment, and it doesn't matter. You make the message fit the medium. You're not going to put a used car ad that you would print in a newspaper on a billboard. It doesn't work. Period. You make the message fit the medium. So these people who say that they're content experts are like, you don't just throw stuff out there and throw it against the wall and see what sticks like spaghetti. You have to have a strategy. There has to be a purpose and a strategy, and that goes back to the founding principles. Storytelling is storytelling. And, whether you buy media or, and PR isn't paid media. It's, you put the stories out there and try to get it in a medium, or now more than ever, because not everybody watches the same 3 TV stations. There's not just one newspaper that people read, one news source. So you still try to get stories in traditional media, whether it be print or TV or radio, but that's not the be all end all anymore, because there's so many more mediums out there. And now more than ever, because of the way that the algorithms are rigged. I'm from Vegas. The house always wins. You're not going to win the algorithm game. Don't. People, I'll put you on the front page of Google. They're not going to, because they can't. They can put you on your front page of Google, but everybody's Google is different. The insanity, and they're like, you just don't like technology. And I'm like, I don't like technology that doesn't work. So you make the message fit the medium and own your own medium. Control. Yes, you can go to the water coolers of social media to meet people and to get more exposure and stuff. If that's where your audience is, right. Go where your audience is. If they're not, I would have clients say, get me on the front page of the business section. I'm like, do you read the business section? They're like, no. I'm like, do your clients read the business section? I don't know. Okay. If they do, then that's the perfect place for you. But you can't guarantee somebody's going to be on the front page of the business section. You pitch a story and you hope. But there's more and more places. You have your website. You can have your own email list. You can have your own YouTube channel. I mean, you own as much as you can, own your own media, because it's harder and harder to get into. Everybody's not watching the same mediums anymore, and so and that's what's the same is the basic foundation of anything is the same. You make the message fit the medium. Word of mouth, people are going to believe people more than they believe a celebrity. Celebrities never used to endorse anything. I mean, rock bands be like, don't sell out to the man, well, now they do, but they can use their influence for good. It's not just selling out anymore. I mean, they raise awareness for causes and different things, but when I graduated college, it was like the internet wasn't there, but it's the basics. It's what's your purpose? What are you going to say? Who are you going to say it to? How are you going to say it? Where are you going to say it? And what do you want them to do? What's the call to action? PR isn't direct sales. It's relationship building. So people think, oh, well, if we get the story, then the phone's going to ring. It's like, no, it's not. Just like you don't walk up to somebody and go, hi, will you marry me? No, you have to get to know them. You have to date them. You have to, go through this whole thing to feel trusted enough. As soon as you meet somebody, you're not going to take them to meet your parents. As soon as you meet somebody anymore, you're not going to maybe let them know where you live until you know them a little bit better. You don't just, it's relationship building. So it can take time, but the basics of that are the same. You can buy followers, but you're not, that's not gonna, they're not really gonna be customers. They might not even be real. They're just like bots.
You just blew my mind a couple of times during this. That was brilliant. First of all, the whole your Google page isn't the same as the other person's Google page. That got me. And then as I'm listening to you, because I obviously don't have the experience you do, but I
You
thought
know.
I knew somewhat of public relations, but it really just dawned on me. Yeah, public relations, you're building relationships with the public. You're not saying buy my stuff like an advertisement left and right. You're trying to create that relationship, and yeah, I never really thought of it like that.
Yeah.
It's like I always thought of it, I guess, of, oh, we're going to get this article in this publication, then we're going to, like you said, we're going to sell a bunch of stuff. It's like, well, no, you might sell something, but you're making people aware of you. And again, like you said, like, you're not going to get married on the first date. Like, look, they're going to have to get to know you,
I mean, come on, even the reality TV shows are like, The Bachelor, The Bachelorette.
Yeah, like 10 episodes, yeah. And I don't mean to keep going back to nostalgia, but I've had this talk, even like whether it's public relations, it can be film or music, anything. Okay, so it's a two-way street. I feel like technology and, like you said, how many mediums are available. It's an awesome thing because now the little guy truly does have a shot. Anyone can create any platform. At the same time, I feel like it's so oversaturated. And I feel like the art, say something like you doing public relations before the internet came out, I would assume there was that like great feeling of putting in that work, building those relationships, and getting that article published in that newspaper or magazine, and having that go, and having, there wasn't as many options back then, so more people saw that. Not to say that still doesn't happen, but the art of it, if you will. I guess there's still the art of it, but you ever miss that era of it?
Yeah, I do. I really do. And more, it's pay to publish an article or pay to be on this segment of what they call the news. And it's like, people like to say that public relations is free press. It's not free press. You have to pay the PR person or whoever in your organization is doing it. It takes time. It takes time to gather the information. It takes time to assemble it correctly. It takes time to know who to pitch it to and how to pitch it to them. So even if you have it in-house, and I always worked in-house. I worked in corporate America. I didn't work at ad agencies or PR firms. I worked with them. But I was the in-house marketing department at St. Rose Hospital for 7 years. I was an in-house at the local newspaper. I mean, I sat in the editorial budget meetings where they decided what they were going to publish, and what the size of the newspaper is dependent on how many ads they sell, not how much news comes out. If a breaking news happens, they've got to see what they're going to switch up, because they're not going to just sell more ads. That determines the size of the newspaper. And they have a budget. The editorial budget is how much space they have for stories after the ads are in.
It's making me just think of how the world works.
and that's the thing. Most people, they don't get that. And they're like, but this is important. And it's like, but in the scheme of things, what are you doing? So yeah, you were able, because there were fewer eyeballs on the media when you got in the media, it made a bigger impact. But the audiences are more fragmented too. Sure. It goes from mass to niche, to smaller. And you don't have to be the biggest, but where are you going to make the most impact? That's why I like working with small businesses and charities, because it's not this mass appeal. It's, you're going to impact the audience that you desire to serve. And that's going to make a huge difference in that audience. So it's not everybody, but it's like, you can be everything to somebody, but you're not, and that's enough. But you don't have to be everything to everybody. That's exhausting. You can't be everything to everybody. You know, people are smarter. People know what they want more. You know, they're not going to be told or sold. They know what they want. And if you don't make it, they're going to find it, or they're going to figure out a way to make it themselves. You know, so it's more about impact now, more than impressions. Got this many eyeballs. It's like, You know, with social media, they're like vanity. They're measuring the wrong thing, the whole thing with big data. And it's not, I don't hate numbers. Well, kind of, but they measure the wrong things. And they're telling the wrong story about what they're measuring. You know, they're interpreting it wrong. You know, a lot of times, more often than not. There's a book called Restoring the Soul of Business. I can send you a copy. I have an extra copy.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do. I got it at because it was the author, Rashad Tabakawala. He's amazing. I'm like crushing on this guy. He worked at one of the big ad agencies for years and years and years. He's a total numbers guy. And he goes, you have to have the proof, you know, which you do. You have to have the proof, but he goes, to make you have to marry the spreadsheet with the story, and they have to match. Oh yeah, I like this guy, and his book is just like, and he's got a blog on Substack. It comes out every Sunday, and and then another friend of mine, a colleague who I met downtown. Through Rick, the great connector from downtown way back when, Sangeeta Waldron, she lives in London, but she does PR, and she gets it. We always say that we're across the pond from each other, but we're on the same page. She wrote a book, and it's called Corporate Social Responsibility is Not PR, and that is true. It's part of the stories that you tell, but CSR has to be baked into the company. It's not just writing a check or doing a fundraiser or doing this, and you don't do it to get press. You have to mean it. You know? Okay, that was just another tangent. Sorry.
No, this is great. No, I'm loving. I'm soaking it in because and correct me if I'm wrong, but like PR too, it's not always we need to put. Well, I mean, we want to look good, but you put out good things or create awareness, but it's also when things don't go good,
yes,
having to put out fires and address those as well.
Yeah.
Which I would think it's a whole other art form within itself.
It is. And I typically don't have the type of clients where I need to do crisis PR.
Right.
And manage that. But I know how to do it. I had to do it when I was at the hospital.
I was going to say any big corporate, that's where you're probably going to have to do it.
There was a chemical leak at one of the plants that was just down the road. Mm-hmm. It wasn't when PepCon exploded. I wasn't at the hospital then. That was before I got there. I was in college then. Mm-hmm. But there was a chemical leak at the plant, and the air turned green. And they, until they figured out what it was, and when you work at a hospital, you have these disaster badges that you can, so the medical people can get to the hospital to do their job, right? So you have these, it's not just your ID, but there's like these badges that you're supposed to be able to get like past the police blockades, because they blocked it all off while they were assessing the situation a whole bit. Well, I mean, I was just out of school. So I'm in my 20s. I don't think I was 30 yet. I'm in my 20s, and I'm driving in because I have to handle the media inquiries, right? My boss lost her badge, so I was there by myself. And I'm handling all the inquiries and stuff because the rumors just fly. And this is in the 90s. Like I was there from 89 to 96. So it was like the early 90s, I think, that this happened. So I've got the newspapers and the TV stations and then the Associated Press, and they're all like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And I had to gather the information from the places, make sure that the media weren't coming into the ER and bothering people. And people were just, it was a mild thing. There was just some minor breathing things. It wasn't a big disaster, but rumors just, if you don't tell them the truth and get the story straight, that it can go crazy. But because there was a plan, and I ended up calling them with updates before they had to call me, because they're on deadline. That's why they're not trying to make things up, especially back then. There wasn't all this fake news stuff, but back then, but they had a job to do and they had deadlines, and sometimes the updates were just, no, there's no new information, or this is it, and it's cleared now and the roads are open again and the air's not green anymore. And
but you stayed proactive with it. You
have to,
yeah,
because my clients are also the media.
True.
First and foremost, so I tell my clients, if you don't get back to them in a timely manner, I can't work with you, because you're not going to blow that, that relationship. I have to continue to work with it. Whether or not I work with you, I always have to work with them. So it's like, this is what we need to do to work together. And this is why. And, I've never had a problem with that, with clients not doing that, but you need to let them know, because this is how it works. And this is why they need it when they need it. Like when they say they call you and they need this now, they kind of do.
This opens up another can of worms that wasn't on the question sheet I had, but and without going into details we'll keep it vague, but I can't help but to think, when you're telling me, because when you're telling me how this is working with the hospital in the 90s, it seemed like it was a very pure and give and take system. Like, hey, I'm the PR person. I'm going to communicate with you. You're going to communicate with me. It seemed just more, what's the word I'm looking for? More ethics maybe involved. Whereas today we have these smartphones, and it's a gift and a curse, because
yes,
anyone can put anything out, which that can be a good thing. But at the same time, anyone can put anything out. Wow. And when in a world that we're living in, where we don't know what's what and what's not, because there's 20 million articles and this person says this is what it is and this person goes, no, it's actually this. It's like, whoa. It's like, I feel that, and again, please correct me on any of this, but I feel like maybe some ethics certainly have been lost. And I don't know if it's necessarily malicious. It just may be the consequence of the environment we are now living in with how things work. And then, of course, money and advertisement probably play a role in all that as well.
It turns malicious when they're trying to get something out of it. Yes. And people reporting things can be a very good thing at different times. But you're only looking at certain things. You always have to consider the source. And not that the source is trying to be misleading, but consider the source. When a police officer goes to the scene of an accident or a crime, and he is taking witness statements, people aren't trying to lie. People are saying what they saw. But three people standing on the same side of the road will give them three different perspectives, and they're not lying. So amplify that. And then I love stories, but stories are living, breathing things. And stories have many, many sides. There's the facts. There's what you believe, which of course is the truth. Then there's what others believe, those conspiracy theories and all that crazy stuff. Then there's the story that you make up about the story, what you think it means. Is it a blessing, a curse, an opportunity, a failure? But the most important thing is how you frame that story. Did it work for you or against you? Is it horrible? That's how you live your life. If you think everybody is out to get you, if you think everybody's lying to you, if you're scared and everything's a threat, how you frame that story and all the stories that happen. It can rain one day. It doesn't mean the weather is bad. You know, one hurricane, oh my God, and as horrible as that is, it's one event. Just like if bad things happen to good people, just like bad things happen to good companies, you know, the religiously sponsored hospital in Henderson, okay, it wasn't their fault. It was a chemical leak. But that's not the whole story. It's a chapter. It's a page. So always consider the source. What lens are they looking through? You know, not everybody is out to manipulate, but it easily can happen. And you can be passionately sure of what you saw, but it's only one side, one angle, and you're not trying to mislead anybody. So always consider and get the whole story. If you know one thing about a person, you just know one side of the story. You don't know everything that happened, you know, the backstory. Just like in the movies, they have the prequels now. Now you have the backstories. I mean, look at Wicked. Who knew that the Wicked Witch of the West was really the nice one? You know, wow.
Changes your perspective, doesn't it?
But that's the thing. Until you know the whole story, you don't know the story. And so, like you said, it's a blessing, it's a curse. And, you know, most people and most news organizations aren't out to give false information. But always consider the source. And when they have sound bites because they're broadcast, you know, or you just saw this part of what happened, you don't know what leading up to it or afterwards or anything around it. And it doesn't mean that what you said was false, but the story that you're going to make up about what happened can be false. You know, newspapers only have so much space. Well, now there's the internet, so you can tell more of the story, you know, and the same thing with the TV news, you know, or radio news. You have sound bites of information. If you don't know the whole story and you don't know the source, you don't know the whole story. You have to put the pieces together and you have to look for more. You know, the police have been dealing with it for years with witness statements.
I think that's a brilliant analogy to use. Yeah, that was great. I can't wait to listen back to this one because I think that's a great, especially in the times we're in. I think it's a great thing for people just to hear. No matter where you're thinking, just again, like you said, consider the source
and get the whole story.
And get the whole story.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Wicked Witch of the West was the good one.
Is that with Angelina Jolie? Is she? No. I
don't think so. It was.
It's a recent movie, right?
No, Wicked. It was a Broadway play.
What am I? Oh, I'm thinking of what's it called?
Maleficent.
Maleficent versus. I thought that's what you were. Okay, I have not seen that, bro. So in this play,
The Wizard of Oz, yeah, it's the backstory of the Wicked Witch of the West from the Wizard of Oz.
So Linda
the Good Witch, they were like sisters, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that.
Oh my God, yeah, I got to see that one on Broadway.
Oh my gosh!
I know it was a fluke. 7-Eleven was a client for a few years, and when they did the Quickie Mart campaign, where they transformed one of the 7-Elevens into a Quickie Mart here in Henderson, it won the Silver Anvil Award, which is like the Academy Awards for PR.
Wow!
And the award ceremony was in New York. And it was like, I mean, I had to pay my own way. It was like, whatever. But it was a write-off, it was a business trip. And I'm like, oh my God, if I'm going to New York, I'm going to Broadway. And that was like a hot ticket. And because I bought one ticket at the last minute, I got it. And it was like third row center.
Wow. That had to have been an amazing experience.
Oh, I still have the confetti and yeah, it was just, wow. Yeah.
And I want to shout out your PR company that you run, Blue Cube Marketing Solutions, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
And if people do want to work, we'll say it again at the end. But if people do want to get a hold of you to work with you, is there a certain process to do that?
Well, they can get a hold of me through my website. It's the number 1, bluecube.com. I mean, if they want to type in Blue Cube Marketing Solutions, they can, but that's like a whole lot of words. So I got onebluecube.com. It's a little bit shorter.
So you like telling stories.
Yes. Oh, God.
And you've done more with stories. You wrote a book.
I did.
Poetic Justice, Lessons of Love, Life, and Relationships by Tami Belt. I have not finished it yet, but I'm into it, and I love it. I think it's great. I think it's really deep, really deep. I'm going to tell you one that caught my attention right at the bat. Imagine, I believe what it was.
Yes.
And just where you're talking about that childlike innocence that we all have, but most of us will lose.
And the
responsibility an adult has to, hey, don't steal that from them.
We forget. Like Einstein said, intelligence will get you from A to Z, but imagination will take you everywhere. When my friends were starting to have babies, they were all worried about, being good parents. And, you just, the normal, am I going to be, can I take care? Oh my God, I can't take care of it. Oh my God, I'm like responsible for this life, and I'm just like, are you kidding? You were a kid. Remember. And so that poem, whenever they had their baby showers, I would, print it out and like do a little frame, and with whatever I was getting them for their baby shower, I would give them that to remind them. But yeah. That poems started writing me about age 12. Yeah, they literally wrote me. I didn't write them.
How so?
I had emotions that I had to get out. Well, any 12-year-old, male, female, whatever, nobody understands. Nobody listens to me. Your hormones are raging, and, it's just everything's so important and nobody understands, and yeah. So they wrote me, and I was like, this tomboy. I was, I played golf barefoot, and I'd climb mountains, and, I was more like a tomboy, and I thought poetry was sissy, so but it helped, it was like therapy for me. I'd get out whatever I was feeling and just tuck it away. And it was years and years before I let anybody read any of them. When friends started going through things, I'm like, oh, here, read this. And they're just like, that's it. It translates the emotions into, like you connect with certain things. And that's when I started showing them to some people. And before I published the book, there was only like 2 or 3 people who'd like read all of the poems that I'd written. And the book is just a collection of them. It's not all of them. But when I got to the point in my career that I wanted to start doing public speaking, paid public speaking, I've done it for decades, but to move to get paid to do that, it's like, well, you have to have a book. And I've got a lot of experience. But it's hard to write for yourself. Like I can sit here and explain things to you just like I can do up on stage or in an online class, which I've got some of those, to explain things, but to write it out for yourself. The mechanic doesn't want to fix their own car, but they'll fix everybody else's. I want to tell everybody else's story, but I don't want to write my own. Sarah wrote my bio. I couldn't even write my own bio. Sarah had to write it for me.
Oh, shout out to Sarah.
Shout out to Sarah Gabriella. Yeah, because I'm like, I can't do this. I can write it. I can do it for anybody else, but to do my own, no. So I was like, well, wait a minute. I have a book. And it's the 360 of my storytelling career. It's why I know how important stories are. So I got Balboa Press to publish a collection of my poems because that's the beginning of my storytelling career. Because everybody needs to feel seen, heard, and understood.
That's beautiful. And so these are just a collection over years.
Yeah, from 12. The poems wrote me from like 12 to, they stopped in my early 20s a lot. They stopped a lot, but I think the last time I wrote they really stopped like early 30s. They slowed down a lot. But other than like a few people saying, write a poem for me, like I had a musician friend who goes, write me a poem and I'll write you a song. And I wrote him a poem and he didn't write me a song. So I wrote another poem and he still didn't write me a song. And I wrote another poem. I kept getting like, so yeah, there's the musical ones. I would, like Sweet Saxations and, I'm just like, this is what it's like to, listen to your music. So what's it like to play it? And, but it's weird because I don't really write poems for other people. It was just to get my feelings out. And then years later, starting probably in my mid 30s, I would once a year, usually New Year's Eve, because when you live in Vegas, you don't go out on New Year's Eve because it's amateur night.
It is. I can vouch for that.
Yes, it's amateur night. So, I can see the fireworks from my backyard and I can stay home, have my cocktails and not drive. I mean, not even in the neighborhoods because people come here and they're just like, they're crazy. So once a year, New Year's Eve, I would go through and reread the poems. And I noticed something. They would, once you separate the emotion from the event, you can see the different sides to the story. You can remember it differently and resolve what happened. And so my perspectives would change about, what happened. And I don't remember who said it, but they said, you're healed when you can retell your story and it doesn't trigger you anymore. It's like something that you watched on TV. It doesn't erase what happened or the impact or whatever that it had on you, but it's like, it changes the perspective. I wrote it when I was a teenager, I was in my 20s, but when I read it from a 30 or a 40 or a 50-year-old woman's eyes, it changed what happened. And it's like, it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It just means that it wasn't against me, or it wasn't this, or it wasn't, this whole emotional charge. It's just like, oh, okay. Just like it rained that day instead of it ruined my day. It's like, oh, it was really wet. Just a different perspective. And that is so important because the most important story is the one you believe. It's not who you listen to. Or it's not the people that you hang around, it's the people that you listen to. You're the sum of whom you listen to, not who you hang around. You can hang around with like this motley crew of people, but you don't really, you're not always like them. They're fun to hang around or, do stuff with. But it's who you listen to, because that you start listening to yourself, and is what you're saying true? Is it true? And that's a passion of mine with storytelling, because I did it for myself before I knew that I was doing it. But one of the things I want to figure out how to do is how to work with women who've been abused and help them rewrite their story, because it's a chapter in their life. It's not who they are. The stories that they tell themselves when they're caught in that cycle is not who they are. They just, you can't just snap out of it, but you need to get it out, to work through it, so you can see it clearly.
It's really, it seems it's very healing, and it's therapy, really. And that's why going through this, reading it, is like, man, it's like, it really, what I love about poetry in particular, it just really makes you feel, especially for the reader.
Yes.
Like, man, it makes you, it's humanity. It's everything. It's, someone sharing their most vulnerable moments on a page.
Yeah, and it means different things to different people. And it was really interesting, because the whole time, like junior high school, when I was writing these poems that nobody knew I was writing, you know how on social media you reconnect with people you went to school with that, you weren't really friends with, but you knew each other. Mm-hmm. And then when I published the book, these people are like, oh my God, I didn't know that was going on. And I'm like, but it's like, it's human relationships, it's a human experience. That's why everybody can relate to it. I was writing about what I felt at the time, but it's what everybody feels. Friendship, love, betrayal, unrequited love, whatever, that's why it's called Lessons of Love, Life, and Relationships. And like a diary, I'll never say who each poem was about, or, it's like, because it doesn't matter who, because not all relationships last, but lessons do. Mm. Hopefully the lesson lasts.
Yeah.
but I never repeated the same mistake from the really bad relationship, from, the marriage and the divorce and all that. I never repeated that. And most people, they're caught in that cycle, and I never did. And I think that was why, and I didn't even realize it until later, because you don't see it when you're doing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it did. That's exactly what I did.
Well, yeah, it reminds me too, because I know there's certain things, years later, I'm reading some book and this author puts it, and I'm like, oh man, I totally was doing that 3-4 years ago, but I didn't realize it. Mm-hmm. So it's a gift to give this to someone, being like, not only to help you, but it's going to help someone else recognize something in themselves as well.
Oh, I'm not going to make money off the book. Well, no,
you should still go get it though.
Yes, go get it. But most authors don't make money off the book.
Right.
Come on, a book. It would be a Christmas miracle if it got to the bestseller list. But the book came out November of 2015. So it's been out for a little while. And again, the reason I published it, and the reason why most authors publish, is it's, a way to help them, get speaking or a platform or something like that, because most books you don't make money off of. But I was shocked when, friends and would, like, the reviews that they would write, or what they would say. They're just like, oh my God, this totally helped me. Oh my God, this makes so much sense. Or it wasn't just me. Everybody thinks that it's just them. And it's like, no, it's a human experience. Everybody goes through, betrayals and loves and deaths and everything. It's human. We all go through it. But some people the way that they can explain something or the way that they can write something, they make you feel. They make you feel. And another thing is they make you think. Oh, we need more people to make us think. All these smartphones are dumbing us down. All these cars that drive for us, we're not thinking, we're not seeing, we're not paying attention, and it's costing us. We don't think so, but it does. When Grandma taught me to drive and how to parallel park, I don't want to trust a car. I mean, my nephew's like, oh, just wait until the cars that, you'll just be a passenger. I'm like, no.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't want the video camera that shows me how to back. I want to turn around and I want to see. I want to see. That can be a backup. That's fine. That can be the co-pilot. But no. I never want to get where I'm not paying attention. People program the computers in cars. People aren't perfect. Robots can go rogue. Lawnmower man. Every time. like AI, no, AI is bad. I don't want artificial intelligence. Mine's bad enough. It's like lawnmower man. Like, what? I'm like, go watch it.
That was a movie. That's funny you bring that up. I want to say that was a movie title.
Yeah.
That I'd see at the dating myself, like to back in the.
You're a puppy compared to
Blockbuster days when you used to go to the movie store on a Friday, Saturday night, and that was the thing to do. Lawnmower Man would be like, I don't think is either I was too scared to watch it or I wasn't allowed to watch it. I can't remember which one it
wasn't. Well, it's
not like really bad
movie. No.
Maybe I was scared of the cover. I don't know.
Yeah, he just like plugged himself into the computer and it was like, yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't like a horror flick.
No, it wasn't a horror movie.
Huh. I do know that title though. I just didn't know what it was
like
about.
It's more like a sci-fi, like scare, that kind of, but no, it wasn't a horror movie. Because I used to love ghost stories. That was the beginning of my writing career, was ghost stories. Because I would change the ending, and I don't even know how I knew how to do that because I was in elementary school, but I changed the ending so I didn't die. And that planted the seed that no matter what, you can change the story. And so all these like, it's like things happen and it doesn't click. It's like when your heart takes a picture, but it doesn't develop until you're ready to understand it. Like you can read something or you can hear a song and you think you get it. It's like Disney movies. Oh my God, they're in layers. So the parents understand things that the kids don't, that are in the movie, so that the parents don't go crazy when they watch it 5,000 times. Because there's different layers of meaning.
I never thought of it like that.
There's different layers of meaning in things. You reread a book, you're going to catch things that you didn't see the first time, or you're going to see it differently because your perception has changed. Your worldview's changed. When you know more, you understand more, or you think about it in a different way. And that's what we've lost. We've lost the ability to think. We give it up to technology to let it think for us. We give it up in schools. Oh my God. You're memorizing tests. You don't learn by memorizing tests. You don't think. You don't problem solve. Years and years ago, I would go to Fast Company magazine conferences called real-time conferences. And Tom Peters was one of the speakers one time. And Tom Peters goes, they teach you in school to think inside the box. And then once you get in corporate America, all they tell you to do is think outside the box. He goes, schools created this whole industry for me to thrive because I teach people how to think differently. Or just to think. Just to think. Just think. Just imagine. Oh, God, imagine. Yeah. That's what we've lost.
Yeah, I'm with you on all of that because
well, you're creative. I mean, that's what you've always been creative.
That's what I definitely gravitate towards. And look, we're using technology right now. I mean, we use these to stay connected. There's good things about it, but yeah, I'm with you on this whole but let's not totally put all our chips in here. You can't lose sight and touch with certain things of humanity, that thinking being one of them. And
you make it work for you instead of you.
It's a tool, right?
It's a tool, yeah, and you make it work for you. You don't replace you and instead of you, and use it to better connect, to better think, to make better movies, to tell better stories, to impact more people, but not to take over you. Remember when we were, the whole downtown scene and the tech scene, and everything was all this tech this and tech that, and everybody was making an app.
Yes.
But it's like, okay, but what does it do? Is it really, and it's not that there was another app that did that, because competition, that's fine, that didn't. But it was, why? And do we need this? Do we need more of this? And an app isn't a company. An app is a product. It's a service, it's a product, it's not a company. And these people are like, I started a company, I made an app. And it's like, you have a product that, and what, why? Just like when you're trying to communicate, your story, your message, why? What's the purpose? Who do you want to reach? What do you want them to do? But what do they need or want? Just because you made it doesn't mean they're going to come. What do people want? The best conversations begin by listening. You can make the greatest mousetrap, but if somebody doesn't have a mouse, they don't need it.
And that ties into what you were saying earlier with PR. Like, I want to get my front page of the Business Week or whatever it was. It's like, but does your audience do that? And it's interesting you bring this up too, because I remember one time, and I remember that whole time. I mean, that's back when we were doing the social media show Hardcore, and we interviewed a lot of people down there. And I will say this: it was a beautiful thing to be close to that, because the energy was crazy, like so much entrepreneurship, so many creative ideas. But I remember one time I said exactly what, it was at a networking event. I think it was at the Palms. I can't remember, but it was a tech event.
Yeah.
And I said to a guy, I'm like, I don't think we need an app for everything. Like, we don't need everything. But he said something, he goes, yeah, I see what you're saying. He goes, but sometimes creating something leads to creating something. And I saw the point he was making. I agree with that. But at the end of the day, like, for example, where here in Los Angeles, where no one has washer and dryers, you have a community one, and you do it all on an app now. It's called PayRange. It's really good when it works, but if it doesn't work, you sometimes can't use quarters anymore. It's like, why can't I just use the quarters? Because if the app goes down, I'm not going to be able to do my laundry. I know the quarters will work. So it's like, okay, the app is cool, I get it, but let's not totally replace everything with it.
Thank you. And that's where, like, okay, because I'm a certain age, and people will say, you just don't like tech, or you just like get off my lawn. And I'm like, not get off my lawn, but you know what? I know how to solve problems that I don't have to do it with technology. Because I remember how to do things before it did it for you. Like you just said it. It's like, let that be the backup, because that works. Mm-hmm. You know, what happens? Oh my God, if a website goes down, a major social media website, people, what do I do? What do I do? Talk to somebody. You know, I love the, you know, the videos where they have a rotary phone, even a push button phone, but especially the rotary phone. There is nothing like slamming that phone down on somebody. I mean, there's just, you know, and you're attached to the wall and you pick it up and you don't even know who calls, because they didn't have robocalls back then. And, you know, then there are these kids that are so tech savvy. And I mean, I'm not. I rely on my nephew, my niece, everybody younger than me to teach me things. You know, every time I get a new phone, I have to go to phone school. But they're, you know, when they try to show them to dial a phone, and they're just like, and it's like, but it's, you know, yeah, keep the backup.
Keep the backup.
Keep the backup plan. You know, it wasn't broke. You can make it better, and that's fine. You know, build something that leaves, you know, but don't get rid of the backup. I hate that cars are computers. So one thing goes, the whole car goes. No, stop this throwaway society. You know, quit making me, when my computer still works, why don't you continue to provide updates for it? Don't make me buy a new one every, I think the last one was 10 years. Yeah, but don't make me keep getting a new phone. Why does everything have to be thrown away? And then look at the climate crisis now. Everything's disposable. What's wrong with sweeping the floor with the broom? Instead of all these things that you use once, maybe twice a day, that continue to get thrown into landfills. And you know, yeah. You know, what's the purpose? I hope with that people will, not just the impact of what they do, but the impact of what they consume and why. Think.
Well, you've definitely given us a lot to think about today. I know I have.
On my soapboxes.
Yeah, no, well, this has been a wonderful conversation. I've really enjoyed this, Tami. And one thing I wanted to say real quick before I give you the last word is you're a very positive person. And this is going to sound, well, this won't sound weird to us because we've been in the social media realm for a while, but it's like, I feel your energy through your posts. Like, you're always upbeat, you're always supportive, you're always, so I'm just, one question, like, is that just how you are, or is there a certain thing that led you to being that way, or is it a life philosophy by chance? I don't know. I'm just curious asking. You just are very optimistic.
Yeah,
You're good at making people feel good. I guess that's what I should say. Maybe that's the PR in you.
But no. That's because I know what it feels like not to. The strongest people have been broken to their core. They know how to come back. Stories literally saved my life. When I didn't like where I was, I imagined something different. You know, you didn't know how to get out of something. You just start to move. I've been there. It's not a false positivity that I put on social media, but I don't have to put all the ugly there. And there is, because if any, there's not, light without the darkness. But I just know how to, over time, how to manage the darkness and to always let the light come in. It's through the broken places in a heart that the light comes in, that the gold can fill it in. It has to be cracked open. You don't know joy without despair. And it's been my experience that people either fall victim or they rise above. And I chose to rise above. And I've wallowed in that darkness. And I think everybody, you have to get through it. So you have to feel all the feelings. But it's because I know the other side. And I choose to rise above it. And yeah, I live alone. I cuss like a sailor. I get pissed off and I just but then I'm done. Because everything isn't always wonderful. But I know that it will be again. The good times and the bad times, they aren't permanent. But, it's the roller coaster ride. It's life. Live it. It's going to be messy. But, it's fun to dance in the rain. As long as there's not lightning. Don't be stupid. But it's fun to dance in the rain. Yeah. Because I've been there. And again, it's not a false positivity, but I'm not gonna, every bad thing that happens. Some things that are stupid that happen, I'm pissed off about. I'll write a post and I'll get everybody to agree with me, and then I feel better because I was validated, and then I'm done. But like bad customer service or something, just whatever. Because things happen, but it's learning to be resilient, and it's just I choose to rise above. I get upset, but I'm not gonna rant about that, because that's the energy. If I complained all the time, you wouldn't invite me on your podcast. I couldn't tell my stories. So just good or bad, it's not permanent. It'll come again. It's not like, oh, I lost that. You didn't lose anything. Something else will come.
I love what you said just now. I loved all of that, but I really loved what you said about it's fun to dance in the rain.
Oh my God.
I have some other friends who have written some poetry books too, and you guys all have this in common, is when I read these poetry books and even reading yours, it's like, it makes you just want to get in the game of life. It makes you and it's not always going to feel good, but what's your other option? Not play? You're not going to ever feel anything. So it's like, I want to feel it all. Like, I want to be
play every day. And the thing is when the bad happens, it's going to be okay. You will get through it. Probably not as fast as you want. Maybe not the way that you want, but this too shall pass. This whole COVID thing. Who'd have thunk that it's this long?
2 years. It's almost the 2-year anniversary.
Yeah, 2 years. At first I thought, a few months, and then, okay, maybe a year, but this?
Now it's open-ended.
I'm used to working from home. I'm used to living alone. This is different. You couldn't go to networking. Some of them transferred really well online, but I'm still like, go out, meet people. I was meeting people, having picnics in a park because you could social distance and be outside, because you couldn't before we know a lot more now than we did in the very beginning, but it's different.
Yeah.
It's different, but I still could always go on my walk, even if in the beginning when people were wearing masks outside, just, alone, totally, but yeah, you figure it out.
Yeah.
You do what you can, and technology isn't going to solve your problems. It can help you, but don't rely on it. What do you do? I don't know. I guess I can't fix things like technical and stuff, but you figure out how to do things. That's what people used to do before they didn't rely on something to do it for them. And I came in on the last of that. If we would listen to the stories of the people that were losing left and right from the greatest generation, they thought different because they thought. And they thought about solutions, not the problems. God, did they have problems? But they figured out ways to make it work. It wasn't the best. It didn't eliminate things, but they dealt with it. And it's just what they did. They just figured it out. And people don't think like that anymore. And I wish they did. People would be happier, because you feel control when you figure it out.
Yeah, you do. There is that feeling when
the community comes together. The scariest thing is to not be able to take care of yourself. Not that you want to be self-sufficient and isolated and I don't need anybody. Oh God, no. I love my alone time. Absolutely love it. But I love being with people, with, my community, my, colleagues, friends. I still want my alone time, but I don't know. And nobody succeeds alone. Nobody can do everything on their own. But sometimes it's just knowing where to look for the help, And that community, like you were from the Midwest, communities come together. If you get sick and you can't work your farm, the community works your farm.
Yeah.
That's everybody coming together. That's figuring it out. Yeah.
That's a many great messages within this podcast, Tami. And
it's kind of old.
No, hey, it's wisdom. I eat it up. If people want to follow you or want to get a hold of you for public relations services, or if they want to buy your book, where are all the appropriate places digitally online for people to find you?
All the appropriate places. Balboa Press is the publisher of my book. That's where they can find Poetic Justice. Yes, it's available on Amazon, but I'm more about like smaller businesses. So yes, it's available on Amazon. They'll have to search for it by my name and the name of the book. But on Balboa Press, they can just type in Poetic Justice and it'll come up. My website, again, is the number 1, bluecube.com. You can get in touch with me from there, email, whatever. And it's, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. It's my name. Tami Belt, Blue Cube Marketing Solutions. And that's how they can reach me.
Awesome. And I always give the guests the last word or something that you want to leave us with. It can be anything. It can be as shallow or deep as deep as you want. I know you're capable of deepness, definitely. So it can be something that's been on your mind, something that's inspired you. It can be a movie you saw you thought was really good. It can be absolutely anything.
Oh my gosh. And I was trying to think about what I was going to say, and then the day got away from me. Okay. It's the reason why I published my book. Everyone has a story that someone in the world needs to hear for insight, inspiration, or to know that they're not alone. Share your story. Have the courage to share your story. It doesn't have to be shared to be in the media. It can be one thing that you said to somebody that saves their life, that changes their life. You don't always know when you share something, you share a part of your story with somebody, you don't always know the impact that it's going to make. And neither does the person sometimes until years and years later. But share it. It matters. Everybody needs to know they're not alone, because they're not. And everybody has a story to share. It deserves to be shared, to be seen, heard, and understood.
I love it. Tami, thank you so much for this. I'm so grateful to know you. Grateful that you came on the podcast. I'm grateful for your energy, your positivity, your knowledge, like everything. I've loved hearing the UNLV basketball. Like, so many treats in this podcast.
Apples.
Yeah, no, that's
the Shark Tank.
Yeah. Well, stick around for a second as I stop the recording. But Tami Belt, thank you so much. Hope to one day
come to Vegas.
I'll talk to you again, but I'll definitely see you again.
Yes.
Sometime here in the near future, hopefully. And again, take care over there.
Thank you, Sam.
All right, Tami. Bye-bye.